The New York Islanders winning streak has reached 6 games after they stand pat at the trade deadline. We're going to break down all of that and more on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome, everybody, to the Monday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you can get new episodes as soon as they drop. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. We have got a lot to discuss on today's show. It was a pretty good weekend for the New York Islanders. After a quiet trade deadline, we're going to break all of that down for you today. Plus, we'll preview tonight's game against the LA Kings. But first, if there's something Islanders related on your mind, if you have a question, a comment, maybe a topic you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, you can email us at lockedonislanders@gmail.com. And if you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we talk about whatever's on your mind. You could also follow the show on X at Locked On Isles, and you could follow me, Gil Martin, on X at Ice Wars, NYR, VSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders all season long, and I am live tweeting during nearly every Islanders home and road game. So join me for some instant insight and analysis, and it's great to talk Islanders hockey with you, game time or anytime. Let's start with last night's game. Islanders cruise to an easy win over the Anaheim Ducks by a final score of 6-1. And it wasn't all smooth sailing as much as the final score was very one-sided. I mean, the first period, the Islanders really shut down the Ducks and took a 3-0 lead, and it seemed like everything was, hunky-dory. Everything was going exactly the way you would want it to go. You had the power play goal by Brock Nelson. You had just really limiting the opportunities. The Ducks absolutely got nothing done. And then in the second period, Alex Killorn scores for Anaheim just 24 seconds in off of a turnover, and all of a sudden, the Islanders just sort of lost themselves for the first 11, 12 minutes of the period. Couldn't even get a shot on goal for that time in the second period before finally sort of snapping out of it and then adding 3 goals in the third. Bo Horvat scoring less than a minute in to really give the Islanders, back the momentum and get them back on track. At no point did you really think the Islanders were in danger of losing this game. And let's start with this. Credit to Semyon Varlamov, 22 saves and 23 shots. Can't blame him for the 1 goal he gave up. Here's a guy who hasn't played in a game in 17 days. And because the Islanders have this back-to-back, you give the extra day of rest, obviously, to Ilya Sorokin, and you have him play against that tougher LA Kings team. Varley takes care of business against the Anaheim Ducks. And the encouraging thing was this. Okay, Anaheim only got 23 shots on goal in this game. Again, even though the Islanders played poorly especially in the first half of the second period, you never had the feeling that they were in danger of losing the hockey game. And here's the other thing that really, made me smile. Good hockey teams take care of business when they're facing teams that are in a rebuild or are, not in it anymore. In the past, maybe even a month and a half ago, the Islanders would struggle in a game against a team like Anaheim. They didn't do that in this game. They controlled this game. They came out and took care of business. And that's what good hockey teams do. They have now won 6 games in a row, and that is always an encouraging sign. And you look at the way this Islanders team scored, all 4 lines contributing something to the offensive output. The only 2 forwards on the team who did not register at least a point were J.G. Pageau and Anders Lee. But boy, oh boy, I mean, the 4th line got a goal late with Cal Clutterbuck. The Cizikas line, Casey scored a goal. The power play scored a goal. And the top line, the line that I've called the 3 Bs, Brock Nelson, Bo Horvat, Matthew Barzal, all of them with 2 points, a goal and an assist each for Bo and Brock. Barzy with 2 helpers. It was great to see this team. And, got to call this one out. Mike Riley, unbelievable stretch pass by Mike Riley to set up the Kyle Palmieri breakaway goal, and Palms reaching 20 goals for the season. He continues to play well, and the Islanders continue to help, ride his hot streak. It is not a coincidence that when Kyle Palmieri is on a hot streak, the Islanders as a team are also on a hot streak. One of the things we talked about, and everydayers will remember this, one of the things we talked about was that if you're going to put Bo, Brock, and Barzy together on one line, you need secondary scoring. And Kyle Palmieri has really stepped up since the 3B line was put together. So great to see that. It's important for this team, and they just keep on clicking on all cylinders to win their 6th game in a row. Hero and GOAT of the game. GOAT of the game is kind of tough. There really weren't a lot of players who you could sit there and say, oh, they played really badly and deserve to be the GOAT of the game. I am going to actually leave GOAT of the game a blank. And as far as hero of the game, there are absolutely so many choices, but I am going to go with Kyle Palmieri for getting that game-winning goal and that beautiful breakaway goal, and because of the fact that he is adding that extra juice to keep this team balanced and to keep things going. So great to see the Islanders hitting on all cylinders. Bo Horvat would be my runner-up for the hero of the game. He had the goal, the assist, and won 13 out of 17 faceoffs, which is indeed impressive. Cal Clutterbuck, by the way, 5 hits to lead the team and 4 block shots for Ryan Pollock, who also led the Islanders in ice time with 21:54. You want to hear a great stat, and this is obviously due in part to the fact that you're up 3-0 halfway through the first period. But the Islanders defenseman, Sebastian Aho, played the least, 17 minutes and 17 seconds. Ryan Pollock played the most at 21:54. All 6 defensemen were within 5 minutes of each other in ice time in this game. And the only Islanders forward who played less than 10 minutes, Matt Martin, who had 9 minutes and 36 seconds. So overall, just a strong team performance for the New York Islanders. And I will take the 2 points. And by the way, in case you didn't know, with this 2 points, the Islanders are now tied with the Detroit Red Wings for that final playoff spot in the Eastern Conference in the standings with 72 points. But the good news, the New York Islanders have a game in hand. So if the season ended today, technically, the New York Islanders would be a playoff team with 72 points. They have 19 games left on the schedule. They are only 2 points behind the Philadelphia Flyers for 3rd place in the Metropolitan Division. And, the Islanders have 2 games in hand. So it's there for the taking. It's not going to be easy. This team has a lot of work to do to get to the playoffs, but right now they are playing exceptionally good hockey, and that is huge for this New York Islanders team. All right, we've got a lot more to discuss on today's show. We will talk about the trade deadline. It was all quiet on the trade deadline front, but we'll break down what that means. And we will also preview tonight's game against the Kings, 10:30 Eastern time start. And don't forget, you could hear every minute of that game with the Islanders' hometown radio broadcast on SiriusXM. Just go to the SXM app and do a search for Islanders. Also, we'll have our Islanders' birthday of the day, a big physical defenseman who was with the team in the late 2000s. Let's see if you can guess who that is. All that and a whole lot more still to come on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. You shouldn't have to worry when you buy tickets to your next big event. Well, Gametime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. They have killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, and their best price guarantee. So Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. My favorite feature on Gametime, you can go to the app and see the view from your seat before you buy, so you know what exactly to expect when you arrive. Gametime has deals right up to the start of the event, and even an hour after it starts, it is the place to find last-minute seats. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. So the trade deadline came and went Friday, and much to, I think, a lot of people's surprise, the New York Islanders did not make a move. And look, you can look at it a lot of different ways, okay? They didn't add anybody. They certainly had an opportunity after putting Scott Mayfield on LTIR. But here's the bottom line. The Islanders did not trade away their first-round pick. As of right now, they still have it. That would be the first-round pick they have in 5 years. Now, after the season is over and before and even during the draft, that could change. But I am happy, at least, that the team has that first-round pick, possibly for the first time in 5 years. And the other thing is this. You don't want to make a trade for the sake of making a trade. We knew that Lou Lamoriello was not going to sell any core piece of the pie. He could have traded a guy like Oliver Wahlstrom, who is not playing, who is on an expiring contract, probably won't be back with the team next year because he doesn't seem to fit in right now to the lineup, and he is going to be a free agent this year. They could still, again, do a sign and trade or trade him, before or at the draft, or they could re-sign him and bring him back to compete for another spot if they think, the knee injury is still a factor and he still could come around and do well. The team is playing very well right now. I still do not see the Islanders as being one of the elite teams in the Eastern Conference. If I were going to, list the top 5 teams in the East right now, I don't think the Islanders are in that mix. And, you have Florida, Boston, the Rangers, Carolina. Those, to me, are clearly the top 4. Toronto would be next. And then you have that next tier, which is Tampa Bay, Philly, the Islanders, Detroit, maybe Washington and New Jersey and Buffalo and Pittsburgh. You got to cut it off somewhere. But 10 points right now separate sixth place Tampa Bay from 13th place Pittsburgh, 10 points. So, those are the teams that are at least realistically, mathematically in it. I can't put the Islanders any higher than sixth in the conference right now. So heading into the playoffs, this is a team that could beat anybody they face, but wouldn't be favored to beat anybody they face. Right now, they are the hottest team in the league. They have won 6 straight games. Detroit, who they are now tied with, have lost 5 straight games. So clearly, the Islanders, the arrow is pointing up. Here is the thing. Under Patrick Roy, especially during this 6-game winning streak, what we're seeing is a team that's playing smart hockey. They are quicker to the puck. They are winning more 50-50 puck battles. The shots allowed and the high danger chances allowed are down significantly, and that's a good thing. And even though the shots taken are not significantly up, the quality of the scoring chances are up, and the team is playing better hockey in all 3 zones. So the question is, the old adage in sports is you're never as bad as you look during a long losing streak, and you're never as good as you look during a winning streak. Here's the key for the Islanders down the stretch. You've got this group. You've got a little bit of depth depending on when guys like Robert Bortuzzo and maybe Scott Mayfield come back. You certainly have a little Wallstrom and Fasching as depth up front. You still have Sam Bolduc on the blue line if you need him. But here's the thing. We are going to find out whether or not this little hot streak that the Islanders are on is the start of something new and different for this team or just a hot streak. And look, they're not going to win their last 19 games. That's just not realistic, okay? But let's say they win 13 of those 19 games. If they consistently play well, yeah, there'll be a clunker or 2. But if they consistently play well, if they go 13-4-2, let's say, over those last 19 games, or 12-5-2, something like that, if they show that they can play consistent hockey the rest of the way under Patrick Roy, which is the one thing they weren't doing for the first 45, 50 games of the year under Lane Lambert, and even early on when they made the transition to Roy. If they can do that down the stretch, the way this team plays, again, and with the goaltending they have, you got to figure the Islanders could be that one team that they wouldn't be favored to beat anybody, but they'd also be the team nobody wants to face. And I have some, the Flyers are kind of struggling lately. The Lightning are kind of struggling lately. There are, chances that the Islanders could get into third place and avoid being a wild card. That's one possibility. But let's just take it one game at a time and worry about tonight's game. I am not overly disappointed with the fact that this team did not make an aggressive move at the deadline. Part of it very well could be that the Islanders just didn't have the ammunition because they don't have any prospects that are highly regarded around the league, and maybe their first-round pick just didn't interest people enough on its own. Lou wasn't going to trade away guys who he considered part of the core. So the lack of cap space, the lack of prospects, all of these things and the contracts that the Islanders have probably contributed to the no move. But again, nothing they did was going to make them go from, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th place in the conference to 2nd or 3rd. Now it's a question of getting the most out of the guys we have, and we'll see where the chips fall the rest of the way. We have got more to get to on today's show. We will preview tonight's game against the LA Kings as the Islanders go back-to-back on the West Coast. Plus, we'll have our Islanders' birthday of the day. All that and more still to come on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by your friends at FanDuel. Say goodbye to busted brackets because FanDuel lets you bet on every game of the tourney. Whether you're betting on a big upset or a number one seed, it's time to go dancing on America's number one sportsbook, and that's FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 to use on point spreads, money lines. You could even pick who's going to win it all. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and bet on college hoops until they cut down the nets. And look, you could also bet on pro hoops. You can bet on hockey. Check out the odds for the Islanders and the Kings tonight. Some prop bets. Check it all out on FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel.com/lockedon and bet on college hoops till they tear down the nets. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. And now it's also available on the Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. Islanders, Kings tonight, 10:30 Eastern Time. And don't forget, if you cannot get to watch this game, you could hear every minute of it on SiriusXM. Just go to the SXM app and do a search for Locked On Islanders, You'll hear the Islanders' hometown radio broadcast. So it's Islanders and Kings tonight. Kings lost 2 out of their last 3, including a 4-1 home loss to the Dallas Stars, that coming on Saturday. So the Islanders are on a back-to-back. The Kings will have a day of rest in between their last game and tonight's action. Cam Talbot was the goalie against the Dallas Stars in that last game. It'll either be him or David Rittich. I get the feeling it will be Cam Talbot. But again, we will see what ends up happening injury-wise right now. Carl Grundstrom, Victor Arvidsson, both on IR, along with Phoenix Copley. And then Mikey Anderson and Adrian Kempe are presently out of the lineup. The Kings, they're third place right now in the Pacific, but they're in a dogfight with Vegas, who also has 75 points. They're 6 points behind Edmonton in the battle for second place. The Kings do it with defense. They're 19th in the league in goals scored, 3rd in goals against. Power play dead in the middle of the league at 15th, 22.2% success rate, but the PK, number 1 in the league. So the Islanders will have their work cut out for them with the man advantage. LA kills off 86% of opposing teams' power plays. Right now, Trevor Moore leads the team with 24 goals, followed by Kevin Fiala with 21. He leads the team with 57 points. Anze Kopitar right behind him with 53. Adrian Kempe with 51. 2 other players, Kempe and Quentin Byfield, by the way, with 19 goals. The line combinations for the LA Kings as of their last game: Kopitar, Byfield, and Kempe are the top trio. Philip Deneau centers Kevin Fiala and Trevor Moore on the second line. The third line, Pierre-Luc Dubois, Alex Lafreniere, and Alex Turcotte are that trio. And then from left to right on the fourth line, Trevor Lewis, Blake Lizotte, and Arthur Kaliev. On defense, Jacob Mouvrier teams with the veteran Drew Doughty. On the top pairing, Vladislav Gavrikov and Matt Roy are the second pairing, and Andreas England and Jordan Spence are the third pair. We mentioned the goalies, Cam Talbot and David Rittich. Talbot having a very solid year, 19-15-6 on the year, a 2.47 goals against, but a 9.16 save percentage. Rittich, 9-4-3, a 2.32 goals against, and a 9.14 save percentage. So those are the numbers there. And, again, the Kings right now battling for playoff spot. They're 5-4-1 in their last 10 games. So, they've only played 63 games. So they have some games in hand on some of the teams they're fighting with. But this is a vital game, both for the Islanders and for the Kings. And the Islanders have to stay patient. One of the things I liked that they did against Anaheim was sort of play patiently and pounce on mistakes made by the Anaheim Ducks. You're not going to get as many mistakes from the Kings as you did from the Ducks, but I think the Islanders need to play a similar style, and they've got to make sure they shut down that top line, which is very dangerous for the LA Kings. Time now for our Islanders' birthday of day, and Sunday was the 49th birthday of former Islanders defenseman Andy Sutton, the Kingston, Ontario native, 6'6", 245, spent 4 years at Michigan Tech, was not drafted, started his NHL career with the San Jose Sharks in 1998-99, later played for the Minnesota Wild and the Atlanta Thrashers before joining the Islanders for the 07-08 season. Stayed with the team until late in the 2009-2010 season, where he went on to Ottawa, Anaheim, and Edmonton before hanging up his skates after 2011-2012. 676 career games for Andy Sutton, 38 goals, 150 points, and 1,185 penalty minutes. Add 11 playoff games where he had no points, but 20 penalty minutes, none of those with the Islanders. And we take a look right now at one of Andy Sutton's better games with the New York Islanders. And, again, Sutton, just one of those players who wasn't going to score a lot, but certainly knew how to contribute. And we go back to October 21st, 2009, Islanders hosting the Carolina Hurricanes at the Nassau Veterans Memorial Coliseum. Cam Ward, the goalie for Carolina, Dwayne Rollison, Rolly the goalie, in between the pipes for the Islanders. And in this game, which went to a shootout, our Islanders' birthday of the day, Andy Sutton sets up Matt Molson for the opening goal of the game midway through the first period, and then scores late in the second period from Jack Hillen and Blake Como to give the Islanders a 3-1 lead. The game went to a shootout. John Tavares ends it with a goal, and the Islanders end up winning 4-3. For Andy Sutton in this game, a rare multi-point performance, a goal, an assist. He was a +1. He had 2 penalty minutes, and he scored on his only shot on goal, 18 minutes and 8 seconds of ice time in this game for Andy Sutton. Andy Sutton is our Islanders' birthday of the day. I want to thank everyone for making Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Everydayers, tomorrow on the show, we'll have our key takeaways and our hero and go to the game from tonight's contest against the LA Kings and a whole lot more. So make sure you join us for that. Until then, have a great day, everybody. Stay safe. And of course, let's go Islanders.